me in here.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear us all. Welcome to the round table. Canada's on fire, apparently. Doug, I'm sure you got something to say. We're expecting Catherine, Duke Willis, Barry Prince, and Neil Maguda, and who did I miss? I said Barry Prince. Duke Willis later. Who else is joining us? Brenda Stetner, about half an hour.
Brenda Stetner, about half an hour, 45 minutes. And I thought Patty was coming on as well.
I'm sorry, who?
Patty?
Yeah. Patty will be joining us shortly also. Anyways, take it away, Doug.
Oh, okay. So I get to start this one off tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And once again, welcome to a roundtable event hosted by, I'm guessing it's me tonight for the Mythos Canada. As Ed was so lovely to inform you that we have a good table tonight. And really what we're going to talk about on this roundtable is what's going on here in Canada. And I'm going to start with what's going on kind of on the global stage, because people are very interested in what's happening in the stock markets and why that's happening and what's happening in the bond markets and so forth. So I thought I would take a few minutes here at the beginning of this roundtable to kind of go through that so that you can kind of see what they're trying to cover up with this coronavirus. And so as you can see, I don't know people out there in the audience today, they follow the stock markets and the bond markets, but I do. I follow it all day long. And it was very interesting today because the markets were up yesterday and down today. So they're doing what we call whipsawing within the markets. So that one day, and you can almost time your buy sells to this if you have enough money to play around with in that respect. In the stock market, I don't particularly get into the stock market myself. There are other markets that are far more fun to play in. I have a friend, she trades Bitcoin. Now that's a roller coaster ride if you ever want to be on one. I personally get involved in, well, personally, I shouldn't say that. Corporately, we get involved in the oil business. And so today I wanted to talk to you quickly, ever so quickly, about the price of oil on the global stage went down to $23 a barrel. Now, the reason I want to bring this to everybody's attention is simply this. You've probably heard about derivatives in passing through maybe an article that you've read here or a headline that you've seen there. And there's a lot of different numbers being thrown around. What is a derivative? Basically, they call it a casino. Really what a derivative is, it's a bank on one side with a bank on another side, or a hedge fund or what have you, betting on the performance of an instrument, let it be a bond or a futures contract or well, pretty much anything. Derivatives, they use to bet weather with them. And so I'll give you a quick example of derivative. So you have a $100 million bond that's a 10-year bond with a 3.5% interest rate paid over 10 years in arrears. And so what happens is this. So a couple of people might get together and say, oh, well, this bank wants to bet against this bank that this bond will perform at this level at such and such a point at 3 years out. And the price will drop or the price will go up. And so they'll take those sides. In the oil business, it's kind of fun because they actually bet on the futures contracts for oil. And so when oil dropped to $30 late last week, the derivatives bets on the oil's contracts would have been somewhere around 10,000 to 1 odds on that. So if a guy took a derivative bet, let's say last March, saying that by this March, oil will be at $30 a barrel, and let's say he said just March, the month of March, so he might get 1,000 to 1 on that. If he said, okay, it's going to happen within a 2-week period, this 2-week period in March, he might get 5,000 to 1. Now, if he says on this day in March, it will be $30 a barrel, and he hit the nail on the head, he might get 10,000 to 1. And if he says at this day, on this time in March, on this day, he might get 20,000 to 1. So these are really just gambling bets, and that's all they are. Now, what happens is this, that every bank in the Western world, not so much the Eastern world, but in the Western world, they will take bets on on bonds, on futures, And it doesn't have to be oil, but in this particular instance, I'm going to use is oil because it dropped to $30, went down as low as $20 a barrel today. It's back up to 23 at this point. But the derivatives are 2.8 quadrillion. Now, to give you an idea how much a quadrillion is, that's 1,000 trillion. 1,000 trillion, not 100 trillion, but 1,000 trillion. So that's 2,000 trillion, 0.8. Okay. Global GDP prior to the 2008 collapse was 85 trillion. Global GDP, 80, not even 100 trillion, 85 trillion. So when you talk about the derivatives being 2.8 quadrillion, well, what happened was this: when oil went to $30, it started a derivatives default. Or, well, it started, I shouldn't say default. It started a derivatives. All of these derivatives are interconnected through banks. So let's say I'm at JP Morgan Chase and I take a derivatives bet on the future of oil at $30. And I say it's not going to happen in March. And UBS says, oh yeah, I'll take that. I'll take the other side of that bet. It'll go down to $30 in March. So they take that side. So JP Morgan loses. They have to pay UBS. But UBS might have hedged that by taking that out to two other banks and having taken the other side of that. So now they have to pay. So, and those two banks may have hedged that with four other banks. So they have to pay. So here's the thing. When the fire starts, it's not just like one bank that's going to be in trouble. It's all of them. And right now we have a raging inferno in the derivatives market because oil, don't forget, is the petrodollar. And if the petrodollar is in trouble, if oil's in trouble, the petrodollar is in trouble. If the petrodollar is in trouble, the US treasuries are in trouble. If US treasuries are in trouble, the bond markets are all in trouble. So all these derivatives are tripping switches across the Western world. And this is what you're not seeing. 1.5 trillion was issued into Wall Street Friday of last week, and it disappeared to pay off derivative bets within 5 minutes. It was all gone. So can you imagine what's happened this week? They're pumping $120 billion a day into repos, which is overnight lending, which is absolutely crazy. We are being conned into believing that they can fix this. But oh my God, wait a minute, there's this coronavirus that's been going around and causing all this other panic. So they're taking your eyes off of the prize, which is what they're doing, and focusing it on this virus, this pandemic, this lie. So one more quick thing. So I had a quick chat with a friend of mine tonight down in Florida, and he was telling me that he went out to the gun range because he goes shooting a couple of times a week just to keep in practice. And he says that, well, at the gun range that he goes to, there's also a gun store. And they went through today 10 pallets of ammo, and they sold out of all big guns. In other words, he had these Barrett 50s. The owner of the store had 2 Barrett 50s sitting on the back counter, and he had them there for over a year. Couldn't sell them. One guy came in and bought them both. They're sold out of AK-47s. They sold out of AR-15s. They sold out of pretty much any long gun that they had in stock. And then they started. He got there. There were 85 people in the lineup to buy guns when Bobby got there this afternoon. He says it's unreal. People are freaking out down in the States. And so they buy the 3 precious metals. They buy silver, they buy gold, and a lot of them buy lead. And so I thought that was kind of holy crap. And he's down in Clearwater, Florida, to give you an idea of what it's like down there, just a little thumbnail. But I thought I would now let's bring in Neil and Catherine. Both of them are from Alberta, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what's going on out in Alberta with this coronavirus. Guys, the floor is yours. I'm actually going to mute my mic.
Yeah, wow, is all I can say. There's a lot of misinformation out there. People are panicking. Businesses are closing left, right, and center. Every time I open up my Facebook, I've got friends from all across Canada, posting and arguing, and you can see, that the public is genuinely afraid of what's going on. And, I think it's rather alarming. just to see how so many people are still not even concerned that anything else above this virus is going on. And that frightens me because, we all have groups of people that, we are friends with, that we care about. And, for the last 6 months, I know I've been doing my part to alert people about what's going on, what's coming. And it's just crazy. It's like, it's like they hear you, but they don't. I can't explain it any other way, but, we're doing what we can here in Alberta to inform people that there is, there is a solution to all of this, which is kind of crazy because even at that, I think people are just zoned out now. They don't want to hear anything other than good news. It's kind of crazy. I know Neil's been working really hard with his constitutional committee and, the drafting of the Constitution in his group, as I have done the same. I started another group so that we could kind of double-end, what's going on and reach more people. But, it's still a slog. More people need to know, what's going on.
I was reading an article earlier this afternoon, and I thought, speaking of the coronavirus, so the article went on to talk about that ISIS are apparently a bit worried about the coronavirus and is allegedly sending out travel advisories to their jihadists. I think that's absolutely hilarious. Nobody's laughing.
I seen that earlier. I honestly, Doug, I just about fell where I was laughing at it. It's like, are we seriously that concerned, or are they just that blind to the smoke screen that, oh, the coronavirus?
Well,
I've been watching the stock market. Go ahead, Doug.
I was going to say, and here's another one from the WHO. The WHO are warning people not to read too much about the disease in order to protect their mental health. In a write-up on the recommendations, the BBC says there is a lot of misinformation swirling around. Stay informed by sticking to trusted sources of information, such as the government. I'm sorry, I still got this cold, and if I laugh, I start to cough. Anyway, go ahead, Neil. I apologize. I just thought it was funny. Go ahead, Neil. You've been watching the stock market. Yes, indeed, sir. Neil, did you unmute your mic? Neil?
Trusted. Sorry.
Neil, can you unmute your mic?
That's 3 days. It's hilarious.
Neil, you're breaking up. I'm not sure whether your microphone is on or not. I think maybe your signal is fairly weak. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Neil. Neil?
Looks like Neil's freezing up there a bit, and I'm not getting any audio either.
That's okay. We'll let him sort
More
his
people with legs.
Okay. Neil, can you hear me? Just nod your head, yes or no, because we cannot hear you. So we've got Duke joined us now, and he was chuckling there when I read that little excerpt. By the way, I did post that up on Facebook, and I did send it out on our Twitter feed as well. That whole article is there. It's quite well written by the people at the Alt Guardian out of the UK, which is not the Guardian, it's the Alt Guardian. The Guardian sells you all the fake news, and the Alt Guardian, they're the ones that give you the facts. Anyway, so go check it out. So Duke, what's going on here in Ontario as far as you can see with this coronavirus?
I haven't been paying attention. I've been rounding up pitchforks and getting ready to go beat the Martians.
Okay.
Call me back, okay? I got to go get my tinfoil hat and sharpen my pitchfork. I'll be back later.
Okay, thanks, Duke. So is Barry coming on, or are we gonna? Is Barry here? No. I can see. I keep seeing Neil come in and out. So Catherine, you're in just outside of Edmonton, or you're in Edmonton, Edmonton proper?
I'm in Edmonton.
And so you get to see what's going on within the big city of Alberta there.
Yeah. It's
Is
not
it
pretty.
crazy? I mean, are all the shelves empty, or what's going on?
Well, I went and did a Costco shopping last week sometime, and I was there fairly early in the morning, around 11 o'clock. And when I went, aisle by aisle, when I got to the toilet paper section, there was nothing, absolutely nothing. So I had a conversation with one of the ladies that was behind the tape, and she's standing there with a pallet jack. And I asked her, I said, maybe I missed it, but where's the toilet paper? And she's like, we don't have any. You've got to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you got to be lined out that door. And when they open the doors, you've got to kind of find out which aisle. It's usually in between the two freezers. And we're limiting you to, two packages of toilet paper. Although yesterday I did see a senior lady in the middle of the afternoon walking across the crosswalk, and it looks like she had walked from Save On Foods here in the area I live in, and she managed to be holding like a 12-pack of toilet paper. So it's really hard to determine what the real status is. I do believe, I've seen friends posting that Costco's and Walmart's and other superstores and things like that have been sold out, and people have asked if anybody sees any, if they could pick some up for other people. But I try to stay out of the fray of what's going on in the city as much as possible. So but I have noticed a reduction in traffic noise because I line 3 major highways where I live, and the noise is significantly less. That's for sure.
Nice. So I was checking out silver prices today up on Silver Gold Bulls, which now has a 20-day waiting period, or approximately 20 days. Sometimes you can get it faster, sometimes slower. And then I was on Kitco, and Kitco's pretty much sold out of monster boxes and tubes of 1 ounce silver coins. And I was like, holy moly. I guess I've been blabbing too much on the air, and I know that you've been blabbing a lot about this, and I know Duke's been blabbing about this. And now you go to buy, and it's not there anymore because all these other people we've been blabbing to have gone on and taken it on and bought it out from under us. This is not good. We got to shut up. People don't buy silver anymore. Stop it. Let me. I see we have Barry Prince has joined us. How wonderful. Barry, what do you got to say? You got 2 cents? By the way, Barry, you can swear on this round table. Just not a lot, but you can.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because probably tonight there might be a few words come out of absolute frustration and disgust and unbelievable what I see going on in this country right now, and how people are just going like sheep to a slaughter right now.
Absolutely.
This whole thing, Doug and Duke, and we talked about it. Duke and me had to talk about this today, but the government of Canada allowed this to come into the country. They did not take measures necessary. Trudeau wanted this stuff in here so he can enact the Emergency Powers Act, which he's going to try and do. And if Justin Trudeau gets this Emergency Powers Act into place, then we are going to be in a full-blown dictatorship, and we will have no civil rights. And that's where I believe this government's taking us right now. The writing is on the wall. My thoughts on it, guys, that's what I see happening. I see him setting us up. I see him setting us up.
But you're correct. And the reason they're doing it is to give their cover for their banksters. And it's, don't forget who runs this country. It's not the pollies. It's not the mandarins. They pull the polly strings, but the pollies or the mandarins get their strings pulled by the banksters. The banksters run the Western world. I find it kind of funny. No, actually, because the Wuhan flu, or what do you call a Wuhan problem that was in Wuhan, I had a friend who had a guy over there who was private security for a few of the Western banksters. And so he rotated, he was into rotating out and going back home. And when they changed teams, their banksters were picked up. All these Western banksters were picked up by the Chinese authorities, and they were given COVID 9mm, and then cremated. So the Chinese have been using this to cover up cleaning their banking system out. And so they've been using COVID 9mm and COVID 45mm on the Western bankers and their Chinese cohorts that are playing around inside the banking system in China. And they've been cleaning house, literally cleaning house. And the whole thing with, oh, well, you know, why aren't our bankers coming home? Well, they all died of COVID-19 and we had to cremate their bodies. And it gave them great cover to clean up their banking system.
Duke is just killing himself laughing there, Duke. Like, share
I know. Humor. He loves it.
He's just giggling in the background there.
I talked to him about this before, and it's cute because it's COVID 9mm and COVID 45mm.
It's an incredible...
No one has caught on to the fact that COVID-19 is just a different number on the end of the name of a gun.
Yeah, there you go.
But go buy your toilet paper!
Hey, listen, I've got toilet paper for sale, guys. I'm selling it by the roll. Private message me after the show. I'm just kidding, of course.
Actually, I sell it by the square. And
well, what the hell, man? I don't get it. Could somebody please explain to me why the run on toilet paper was what it was? Toilet paper apocalypse, and how much toilet paper do you need? You know, I mean, you get a package of toilet paper, unless you got diarrhea or some kind of problem, man. That should last you like a long time, right? You know,
2 words. You know? I can answer your question with 2 words.
What's the deal with toilet paper when you should be thinking about food, man? Maybe.
Two words, buddy. I can give you an answer in 2 simple words. You know what they are? Social media. The same thing that got people to fucking eat Tide Pods.
Yeah, that's it. Hit that nail right on the head, didn't you?
There you go.
They got some chick on Twitch going around licking toilet seats to prove there's no coronavirus.
Oh.
Take the coronavirus challenge and lick a toilet seat. Yeah, I want to French kiss that cute blonde all day long. Yes, sirree, Bob. Order me up a heaping spoonful of that woman. There's a DNA I don't want to tap.
Well, that's what Ron White had a video out a while back. Said you can't fix stupid. Stupid is forever.
Yeah, you can't fix. Yeah, and stupid needs a sign. Here's your sign. Now, I'm going to get me a T-shirt with the Myth is Canada right up here in the corner, and in the middle it's going to say, "Here's your sign," and I'm going to walk around with "I'm stupid" signs and hand them out to people. There's about 6 that would qualify for an "I'm stupid" T-shirt, sweatshirt, and hat. Cool. Never mind a sign.
Well, you know, I can certainly say that I have seen a change. I mean, in between all the toilet paper posts on Facebook, and you know, the mood on the toilet paper is getting a little bit lighter now. It's not so serious anymore. But the mood has changed. This past week, we kind of had a bit of a meltdown. It was almost like the internet went dark, and a lot of the people that I socialized with were really, really quite quiet. And so I made a post asking, where is everybody, right? And a couple people came back and said, oh, we're here, or we're just contemplating, what's going on. And, so I honestly think that there has been a little bit more of an awakening of the people who are, of that, belief system that, government is good and they're going to save you, and no, the money's not going to crash, and this virus, you know, it was kind of enlightening to see. I just don't think it's big enough yet
Well,
tonight.
the cognitive dissonance is definitely cracking it throughout society, and that's not a bad thing to have happen. And like I say, tonight I talked to a friend of mine this afternoon. He was down at the gun range, and it's going crazy down there. The Americans have. We're talking in state of Florida. Florida state is a Democratic state. It's not a Republican state. They're full of libtards, and these guys are getting loaded for bear. They're scared, and so it tells you, man, oh man, they're starting to wake up the wrong people. And these idiots in government who think that, well, we can close the borders and we'll just close the cities and we'll just close all the businesses. It ain't going to be long before the stupid people aren't stupid anymore.
Well, I had a friend this week, actually. I'd posted something on the bank bail-ins, and I had a friend actually comment, and she said, yeah, you know, this stock market thing, you know, I guess her and her husband apparently this week lost, you know, $100,000 in the stock market, and they're going down to the bank on Thursday to see what they can do about it. And you know, so that was my first sign that, you know, people are actually, you know, starting to pay attention, because, you know, this friend, through the Facebook algorithms, I wasn't actually getting a lot of her posts. So unless I went to her page, between my shadow banning and the Facebook algorithms, I kind of lost 3/4 of my friend list. I was really unsure whether people were even seeing what I was posting, but that one got through apparently.
Well, and she didn't actually lose any money because she didn't sell the stock and put that money into a bank account, and then that money was gone. Her stock value went down. She still owns the stock, but now the value of that stock went down. And so people, you got to be careful if you're holding a stock portfolio. You need to understand what realized and unrealized gains
There's the key words.
And so, exactly. You want to take this, Duke? This is
A mutual funds investment thing? Gee, I don't know that I know much about that industry.
yeah.
In investments of any kind, ladies and gentlemen, whether they're Canada savings bonds that you got when you were a kid, whether they're your $280,000 RRSPs, any profit you see in them is only numbers on paper until you cash them in. A winning ticket at the horse race track is just a piece of paper until you cash it in. The profit you saw in your RRSP last month that isn't there this month, it wasn't yours last month. Why? Because you didn't cash it in last month. You left it for somebody else to say, we're going to roll the dice one more time. And guess what? It came up snake eyes. So you can stay in the game and keep gambling, or you can take your loss and get the hell out and put your money in a tin can in your garden where I told you to put it way back in October.
Or gold, or silver, or lead.
If you've got that much money, well, yeah, lead wrapped in copper with a nice X or a hollow spot in the center, that's the kind of lead you want to buy.
FMJs. Okay. There you go. Exactly.
Everybody should have that kind of lead.
Yes.
It's got to be delivered at the speed of sound.
Well, it's always a good thing to have something when you need it than to need it and not have it, right?
So who's our blonde edition but she's upside down?
Am I upside down?
No, you're not. She's upside down to you, not to us.
Ah, she looks good. Hey, Patty.
Oh, there you are. Hey, Patty.
Hi, Doug.
Oh, yeah, you're not. Okay, you're upside down on StreamYard. Sorry. So, Patty, you've been listening for a few minutes.
I have. I got on late.
Yeah, that's okay. So let's hear what you have to say, because you were up in Camrose last week, right at that. I mean, I don't. You know, people. I get why people wouldn't show up for meetings because they don't want to be in crowded areas because of this silly scare with the coronavirus.
Yes.
but I love the people that you brought that were there at that meeting. That was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for coming in on that, even though there wasn't many there. But people are just in hysteria here right
Well,
now.
you had half a dozen, so that was good.
Yeah, the one lady was really good, Linda. Very interested. I think she's gonna come on board and start pushing it. So.
Well, you're not in Edmonton though, are you? You're just a little bit outside of.
I'm just outside of Camrose.
Yeah, so you're kind of up in these. Well, I wouldn't call it suburban, more rural, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be rural?
Yep.
So, are you? I take it you're still having the same problems up in Camrose as they are down in Edmonton and down in Calgary and Lethbridge and so forth. That this silly pandemic scare, keeping people inside, what do they call it? Self isolations or self quarantining.
Called social distance.
That's social distancing. That's funny. Gotta be 6 feet. Don't shake my hand. Bump my elbow. Oh my God.
Yeah. Make sure you keep 6 feet between you.
No, you reach out and tap your feet now. That's the new thing in China. Is you reach out and tap your feet.
I had a friend who went into a grocery store today and said she was getting the look of death the minute she walked in. So, like, it's gone beyond,
It has, and they're not even looking at the numbers because for Alberta, apparently the last I heard, because I'm tired of listening to it, is 97 people with it. Well, there's over 4 million people in Alberta. Like, do the math, people. It's not that bad.
How many people died in Alberta last year from the flu and pneumonia?
Yeah.
Well, as of March 18th, 69 people had died in the United States from coronavirus. 22,000 have died from the flu virus that is going around this year.
And 300,000 die from obesity, but they're not closing the drive-thrus, are they?
No, they're not.
Put the fork down.
They did. Well, not the drive-thrus technically, but my son and I were pressed for time today, and we went to just order from Boston Pizza, and he spent 20 minutes on the phone with the guy, and the guy goes, "Oh, by the way, sorry, no, you can't have any food because no one's been at the restaurant all day, so they wouldn't even do delivery from the restaurant."
I got a beautiful story for you that's going to give you the exact irony of all this BS. A couple of you sitting here on camera know that I've been having internet problems here at home. And last night, Amanda and I went to the Cogeco store at the local big shopping mall, the Penn Center. It was empty. I mean, empty. There was nobody there. We went in, got a new modem, came home, plugged it in. It didn't work. We called and asked for tech to come in. They were supposed to be here between 5 and 8 tonight. They showed up earlier in the afternoon before I got home from work, and I didn't know that my daughter had let them in because she was gone when I got home. And cable was working when I got home. Well, Amanda called Cogeco to get the password because our computers were saying, yes, there's internet service, but we need a password for the system. So Amanda called Cogeco, and Cogeco says, we've canceled your appointment with the tech from 5 till 8 because of the coronavirus. We have to do a preliminary scan with you and find out if anyone's been out of the country. Has anyone been this and this and this? And Amanda said on the phone, well, they were here 4 hours ago. So here's their head office to our house. About do we poop while sitting down or standing up? Do we dress to the left or to the right? Those sort of questions, right? And yet the guy had already been here because I guess he fixed somebody else's problem real quick and had a schedule, was in the neighborhood and stopped in here at 2 in the afternoon. Head office had been here. That's the efficiency of dealing with this great big disaster Now, where's my pitchfork? The Martian here soon. There we go. I don't have a pitchfork, but I'll use this skull cane to beat the hell out of the Martians. Speaking of Martians, there's somebody from another planet. Hi, Brenda.
Miss Brenda Stetner, how are you this evening? Mrs. Brenda Stetner, I should say. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. I'm making do, shall we say. It's been a busy time. I have a break at the studio. Actually, I've been doing a lot of online classes via Zoom, via FaceTime. Because I don't have wireless in my home, or because I don't have Wi-Fi in my home, it's better for me to come into the studio and use theirs. And then the store isn't closed as per se, but I have been wiping down instruments and doing all the precaution things, because that's what's expected. And a lot of people have actually canceled out lessons. The scare is really big out here. And especially now that our government has called a state of emergency. And we have all of now 18 cases. So we know that I know what's happening, but lots of people don't, and they don't want to hear what's happening either. They don't want to know the truth behind this scam.
Well, and it's easier just to remain ignorant until it's not, and that's the problem. And there's a lot of people waking up now to what's going on, but there's still those, like you say, that want to remain ignorant, don't want to know, because it's easier for them not to know. But
if this goes on for a couple of weeks, Doug, you're going to see a lot of people waking up.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean.
It's going to really start impacting people that have never been impacted before financially and socially.
I'm looking forward to it. Good.
So am I. We need an awakening. We need something to slap. We need something right now to slap Canadians really hard in the side of the head and say, guys, we got a serious problem here. If we don't all get on board, the ship's going to hit the iceberg and we're all going down, guys.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
I have two things I want to throw out for all 4 or 5 of you rather to talk about, because I warned Doug earlier tonight. I'm in a shit disturbing instigator kind of mood. 2 things I want to throw out at you. Oh, even more so than normal, Barry, because I've been putting up with it from morons at work. 2 things I want to throw out at you guys and see how the 5 of you come to a conclusion. Number 1, in regards to things like a vaccine, in regards to things like we're going to tell you to stay indoors and you can't do this and you can't social this and social that. Number 1, North Americans are not the well-trained, obedient Chinese and Asian societies that you're comparing us to. Number 2, I want to throw out for the 5 of you to talk about. The source geographically, the source of this virus, Wuhan, is already proclaiming to the world that number of new cases are dropping, that the virus has run its course and it's over and done with. We're looking at a 2-week lifespan. What's going to happen when our North American governments, the Western world, runs out of time in the game that it's playing, and this 2-week lifespan of the virus has run its course and they no longer have a smokescreen to put up for all the other crap that we're doing, and all that other crap is what we'll get to later. Answer those 2 things. North Americans aren't Chinese, and if this coronavirus is only a 2-week situation and Wuhan is already seeing the end of it, what's going to happen when the virus is no longer a smokescreen for things like the stock market?
Well, our health minister kind of looked after that. He says that the virus is going to last approximately 18 months is the lifespan. That's what he's telling ours. And it's much better to practice social distancing, and everybody's going to, about 75 or 70 to 80% will get the virus. But it's much better over an 18-month period than a 2-week period. Can you imagine our health minister telling us that? Like, what a crock.
What's he smoking?
Yeah, well, stupidity abounds. And I'm really amazed that a lot of the farmers are actually swallowing this. Well, actually, they're not. They're kind of going, okay, how are we going to get hooped this time? That's their attitude. The city people, however, dumb as hammers. Sorry. They don't want to know. They don't want to even discuss it. Mind you, I had a couple of really good conversations with some people, and they're the ones that are still bringing their students to the to lessons. So, or they're bringing their children to lessons, and they're awake. They know what's going on. Anyway, that's about all I have to say on that subject. As far as, what was your other question, Duke?
Sorry, I muted my microphone there for a second. Well, the one was that North Americans aren't preconditioned to obeying what their government says just because the government says it. And case in point, you don't see Bob Smith walking around the Pacific Mall in Toronto, East End Toronto, which is a very large Asian community. You don't see Bob Smith, the white guy, walking around with a mask on his face. But for the last 5 to 10 years, almost all the Asian people you see at the Pacific Mall, a decade before coronavirus, walked around the mall with masks on. That's because they're taught as infants. The government says you can do this. The government gives us this square box of an apartment to live in, the same as your neighbor's square box. It's not a lifestyle like anyone here in North America can even imagine unless you've been there, okay? And growing up in that lifestyle creates a mindset that is not North American. There's a reason Ted Nugent lives in the United States and not in Wuhan, okay? Like, Doug, you're chuckling. You understand the difference in cultures that I'm talking about here, okay? So to come along and tell a West Virginia mountain guy who goes to town once a year that, guess what, bud? You're coming with us because you're going to live in this camp so we can make sure you're safe, and we're going to inject you with this vaccine. You know what he's going to say? Click, bang. That motherfucker was crazy.
Yep.
That doesn't happen in China. And people keep saying, look what they're doing. That's what they're going to do here. No, they might want to try, but they ain't going to get as far as they're getting in China. We're talking two very, very different cultures of people.
Well, and you've also got to realize something here in Canada, and there's the western part of Canada, then there's the cities within the western part of Canada, there's the eastern part of Canada, and then there's the cities within the eastern parts of Canada. Now, the Atlantic provinces are kind of an unusual. I was out in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland back in the 80s when the oil boom was happening out there, and different different type of people. But here in Ontario, for example, when you go to the big cities, you don't have the same type of mentality of the people in the rural areas, and it's a very interesting mix, because if you go into northern Ontario, for example, they're the same type of people that are in northern Alberta, that are in rural Saskatchewan, et cetera, et cetera. They have that the mentality of they don't need the government's help. Leave us alone, we'll be fine. We do everything together ourselves. And when you come into the city, it's a whole different dynamic, especially here in Toronto, where they're politically active, but not to the point of understanding that everything that they do here in the city is, oh, well, the government can fix that, or the local government should do this, or we should create laws in the provincial government to do that, or we should create the federal laws to deal with that. And I find that a little off with the cities. It's difficult to communicate with people in the city when you talk to them about their inalienable rights or their unalienable rights and their ability to self-govern.
There's one word missing in a big city. I don't care if it's Hamilton, Toronto, Kingston. I've been in Calgary. I've been in St. John's. I've ridden motorcycle through every U.S. state. I've been in tiny little towns and huge cities. The big cities and the little towns, there's one word that describes the difference in the people. Independence. The people in the big cities have no concept of I, the man, independent. They depend on each other. They depend on being part of the herd. They have no ability to be a lone wolf. They have no ability to exist. And the word ability is true. Think about how many people you know that live in a city of even St. Catharines, 100,000 people. I could walk through this city and point out 9 out of 10 of them walking down the street, they wouldn't know how to plant a tomato plant and grow their own food. They wouldn't know how to make a loaf of bread from a bag of flour and a dozen eggs. They wouldn't know how.
I think people are
because
just, and it's become an excuse, just like, not wanting to listen to what's going on with the myth. People will bring up whatever excuse they want to not do something. I mean, that's human nature. But,
they can still go to the grocery store and get it. They can still stick on the light switch and there's power there. But you take anybody in a big city and tell them to get into a rural environment and survive or provide for themselves, they're going to be stuck. Well, that's what the government's preying on, man. They compartmentalize people in the cities for that reason, to make them dependent completely on the system. System collapses, you create the state of chaos the government wants. What are we seeing happen right now in society? People cannot think for themselves anymore. They are so programmed that if you looked at the numbers with this coronavirus, like the numbers I started talking about earlier in the show, it's absolute insanity that we're allowing this to go on, that we're allowing a complete shutdown of society over a virus that is no more harmful than the SARS or any of these other viruses that have come along. This is the one the government is taking and using as an agenda on the people, and people are just gobbling this up. Where is common sense anymore in our society? People can't think for themselves anymore.
I thought it was funny that here in Toronto, SARS, I think, was a 38% mortality rate amongst people over the age of a certain age. But it also had a high mortality rate with younger people as well. So here in Toronto, they had this great idea. Let's invite 500,000 people to a concert with AC/DC and the Rolling Stones, and because it is a pandemic, but we'll just get all these people in one area, put 500,000 people in one area with the SARS up, but you get Corona, which has the mortality rate of over 60 is 2%, which is nothing. That's a 98%. They had a big headline today oh, this man, and it was 89 years old, and his wife, who was 87 years old, survived the coronavirus. And I'm like, well, they probably had a good, strong immune system. But it's just absolute foolishness. But when you get out into the rural communities, I'm finding that they don't care. They think tough beans for the cities. And I don't, am I right, Brenda? I know that you live in a rural community. I know that the cities, Regina and Saskatoon, they're kind of bought into this this virus big time. How is it in your rural communities? Are they buying into this as well?
It depends on which rural community. Some of them, well, let's put it this way. The ones that the liberal families, you can tell. The conservative families, not so much. But for the most part, it's why are they doing this when, like, it's a much ado about nothing is a lot of the people. And then there's, well, you know, they closed down the borders, they brought us all home, like, what's this about? And you try to explain to them, and they, oh, yeah, yeah, Brenda, yeah. And I go, no, serious, like, it's, so it just depends on the person. You can't really say that they all disbelieve it, but what they don't get is how the government is reacting. Okay, so if there's a virus, yeah, there's a virus, and you're used to a virus going around, but it's the government's never reacted this way before. And
well, and
the alarmist.
I treat them like the people that followed Jimmy Jones. I just stand there and wave. Bye. See ya.
well, it seems to cross all political spectrums. It doesn't. I've talked to conservative people as well who dig this stuff with a fork. I mean, it's in the cities, anyways. It's craziness. How I go to this little coffee shop. It's called The Social. It's really, really good coffee. And these are Asian people that started it, and the three lads who started it, shoestring budget, and now they can sell to go, but they can't have the rest of their people there. And they were busy every day. They were full every day. It's that coffee is that good that the people would come in, and the government here in the city said, "Oh no, you can't do that anymore. You've got to put yourself." And so I was talking to the young fella today, who's one of the owners, and he's like, "Man, this stuff goes on much longer. We're going to have to pull the plug." And I think this is done by design, to be honest with you. And yeah,
this agenda is a destruction of economy. The bottom line is to absolutely bring us right to our knees, and I see that happening.
Well, and it's not one type of people. It's all peoples. They don't care who they hurt in this, and they're going to wind up hurting everybody. And
also, another thing we should think about too, is in times when we start having things like this unfold in society, it's really important that people are able to sit down and communicate with each other. So what have they done now in Canada here in the last couple of days? They've shut down every Tim Hortons, every McDonald's, every public meeting.
Put up the barriers.
Of course, what I'm saying, Doug, is they're doing this so people cannot sit down and have conversations about some of the most incredible things that are happening in the country in their lifetime. We're being herded into our houses, being told that we have to stay at home to not interact, and to completely break down every social what's the word I'm looking for? We've been social people all our lives. We talk to people all the time, and now they're telling us to stay 6 feet apart, to go home, and they're shutting down the economies. I mean, this is costing people that live paycheck to paycheck. In 2 to 3 weeks, the effect of this is just going to be mind-boggling in this country. Mind-boggling. Because a lot of people are $200 away from being bankrupt. And what are they going to do? And then all their kids are going home from school now. And how are they going to take care of their kids? Because the school system takes care of my kids. I go to work. I come home. We get by. That's all being taken away and turned upside down. What a state of chaos.
And even the professionals, the doctors, the dentists, yes, they might have a savings account. Yes, they might be a little bit better off, but most of the professionals, your doctors, your lawyers, et cetera, are living on credit. They have a lifestyle.
Yeah,
they have to compete with the Joneses, and so they live this lifestyle that's above and usually it's above and beyond what they're actually bringing in. Their credit cards are maxed out. Their mortgage, they've got the line of credit on their house. The mortgage on the house is at 85%. They've got second mortgage, third mortgage, but they've got to keep up this appearance. Well, you take these guys out of the earning business, and suddenly you've got multi-million-dollar homes coming on the market for pennies on the dollar. And so it's not just the small business owners, the coffee shop guys or the hairdressers, et cetera, but it's the professionals as well. And it's one big takedown. I think this is designed as one big takedown so that the banksters can come in and then do what they call a reset after they clean out your accounts. And they'll do a reset on the currency and then say, okay, well, we're going to get our currency at 1-to-1, but everybody else, for every $10 you get, for every $100 you get one new dollar. But we get ours because we need to maintain. And by the way, when we switch over your debt, we're going to take the debt at 1-to-1, but you're going to take the haircut at 10-to-1. But your debt is still going to be payable at 1-to-1. And that's the final enslavement of the Western world. And that's a really sad state of affairs because that's all it does to you, cradle to grave.
We needed to be planning this 10 years ago to, start working with our communities and our neighbors. Like I find that, in the big cities in particular, you have groups of people, they don't even talk to their neighbors. Like they know nothing. I mean, my husband his whole family is from Saskatchewan. And they've been there since the, late 1800s. And, they understood the value of community. Even when I moved back to Saskatchewan, one of the first things that happened was I went into the Safeway and I actually seen a lady, still in rollers in a plastic bag in her pajamas shopping at 9 o'clock, in a Safeway in Saskatoon. And, the mentality there at that time, 12 years ago, was, still very community minded. Hello, how are you? How are you doing? Today, I couldn't tell you right now about 90% of the people that live down my street. And I don't see neighbors interacting with neighbors in the middle of the street in the summer. I don't see gaggles of kids, calling on other kids. We've lost that whole interaction, that whole social face-to-face interaction. I blame the internet and phones on that. But, when crap hits the fan, we are not going to be organized whatsoever. And the bankers, they knew this. This has been coming for a long time, and unfortunately, we've been gamed. We really needed to start planning a decentralized banking system and working with our neighbors who want to grow food, and the guy across the street who wants to repair your car or whatever, and work towards a decentralized currency. Now it's now we're behind the 8 ball. It's like that train left the station years ago.
I was out getting my coffee today, and one of the things that I noticed on the street, speaking of walking down the street, there was a lot of older people. A couple of guys out there with their walkers, and some older women out doing some shopping. But here's the fun part of it all: there wasn't very few young people, but everybody was smiling at each other and giving the nod, and if you cut in front of them, excuse me, and it was very polite world. But they were all like older people. They were all in their 60s, 70s, or maybe early 80s as well. And it was just a very unusual, because I think I saw, because I had to pick up a package, then I had to go do a little shopping. So I went into one mall, and then I came back to do the Loblaws thing. I think I saw in the whole time I was out for an hour, maybe 3 young people. That was it, out of the 100 people that were out. It was very interesting and very polite and very nice. People were smiling at you as they went by you and stuff like this. It was like you almost stepped back in time.
Well, nowadays, most people would just, rather say hi on Facebook. And if they don't want to say hi to you, they just block you for 30 days or turn notifications off for 30 days and then start posting pictures of what they ate for dinner. I don't know. We've lost a lot of person-to-person interactions. And I think that really has, helped speed up you know, the divisiveness to divide us all, which made it much easier to isolate us all because, you know, it's like, well, it's no big deal. You know, I had people in different community groups today saying, oh yeah, you know, like this is great. You know, I finally get to work from home. I'm like, careful. you are treading, like, you start setting that precedent, man, and like you are just falling right into line exactly where they want you to go. You know, like people have lost the ability to stand up and fight. I don't know if it's because they're too tired, too bored, too broke, too disinterested, too brainwashed. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. It drives me crazy.
Well, what we see right now in society didn't come overnight. It's been 30, 40, 50 years of them working away at society to get us to where we are today, because I'm the oldest person I think I'm the oldest person at this table. And I remember what my childhood was like, and I lived in downtown Toronto, grew up in downtown Toronto. We never worried about me being on the streets. I could be 3 blocks away from home, and my parents could get on the phone and make a couple phone calls and find me in 10 minutes because everybody knew everybody. And that's the way society was set up back then. Everybody on my street, in Drury Street in Toronto, downtown Toronto, I knew everybody for 2 or 3 blocks, and my parents the same thing. But these days, you don't know your neighbor. Why has that happened? What has happened in our society to take us from a society that interacted so much with each other? Respect for our elders is gone in our society. Respect for your parents is gone in our society. All these little things that have happened, well, they didn't happen overnight. They've happened incrementally over the last 30, 40, 50 years that I've seen to bring us to where we are today. And it's
2 words.
Very, very sad. It's a sad state of affairs.
2 words, Barry. 2 words, Barry. Cultural Marxism.
Of course it is.
It started at the Frankfurt School in 1930. 1930, Frankfurt School. And it was brought over to North.
Really ramped it up.
Oh, yeah. And it was brought into the universities as an academic teaching. And what I'm sorry for the audience, in case you don't know what cultural Marxism is, it's politically correct. Basically, that's what political correctness is cultural Marxism. They've created social justice warriors. They've created the diversity within the LGBTQ communities, the feminist movement. All of these things to divide and conquer us. And the problem is,
according to George Carlin, political correctness is fascism with manners.
Well, exactly. But here's the thing. By dividing us, they're conquering us. So the government supports these different movements by creating new rights for people. I mean, excuse me, we're all equal. We all have unalienable rights. If you want to have sex with a man or a goat, it doesn't matter to me. I could care less. Do it in your privacy of your own home. Who cares if both parties are consenting? The problem being is that they drive these wedges into society and try to marginalize people by doing what they're doing with this stuff, by bringing these immigrants in and then creating laws that says you can't speak out against these people. Well, these aren't laws, these are statutes, but it's all that cultural Marxism. And people need to wake up to the fact that by disunifying us, they're going to win. The only way that we can come together is to unify, is everybody gets together. And I've said this time and time again, we all have a seat at the table, we all have a voice. It doesn't matter what color your hair is, what color your skin is, what your religious beliefs are, or what your sexual persuasions are. The only thing that as a matter of fact, I was reading this article last week, and it was just, the EU is considering legalizing pedophilia. I'm not joking. They're actually debating about bringing a new law in that will legalize pedophilia.
Yeah, I seen that today. I just about threw up.
Can you actually believe that is being said in our world today, Doug? That's how far we've gone.
I know. It's just blew me away, dumbfounded.
I saw it too.
What the heck is this world coming to?
Well, the world is being controlled by 2 entities, man. And one of them is called Satan. And he's running wild, okay? That's my opinion. How else can we call it? What else do you call what's going on in our world today but evil? Because I don't see any good. All I see is evil manifesting itself and absolutely destroying our families, destroying our children, destroying our society, destroying our way of life. It's
Yes.
coming at us on light speed. You know, if you want to destroy a society, folks, all you got to do is attack the family. And everything that this government is doing, any government is doing right now, is attacking the family. They're turning our children against us. Hitler did that prior to World War II, and he was very effective at it. He turned the German youth against their parents. Well, the exact same thing is happening in our society with climate hysteria and indoctrination and all the crap programs that are going on in the school. Get your kids out of school, man. It's the worst thing that you can do to a child right now, is put them into a public school system. But anyways, all that being said, you want to destroy a society, you destroy the family unit, and that's what's happening all civilized society right now. And it's spiraling downwards.
You know, it's kind of funny because about 6 months ago, I was sitting in front of my computer and I was cruising through my Facebook feed, and I happened to notice a friend of mine who lives in Winnipeg, and this person, you know, kept posting all of these things coming out of Winnipeg. It was like every day, sometimes 2 a day, and then it would skip a day. But it was like just horrific stuff. And I remember sitting here thinking to myself, what the hell is going on in Winnipeg? Because I mean, it was crazy. It was like there was like 30 homicides in 42 days. Like, and I remember sitting here thinking, you know, other than Revenue Canada and family benefits being there, I don't think I ever recall hearing anything about Winnipeg ever, you know. And I thought to myself, you know, something's not quite right here, you know. And so I started digging around and looking, and some of the stuff that I've seen going down some of these rabbit holes was just like stuff you couldn't write horror movies any better than the stuff I was seeing as being claimed as news. And so I did a bit of research, and I asked my son, I said, you know, is it possible that, you know, we've gotten to the point now where news is actually being written like by AI to, you know, I mean, they're using all of this patterning software to, you know, watch what it is we're doing on the internet. And, you know, you go search something, the next thing you know, it on Facebook, exactly what you were searching for shows up on the right-hand side of your news feed. I mean, it's obvious they're watching us. But I mean, are they not maybe using our behaviors and our patterns to somehow target the news to intentionally, you know, create that shock factor, that wow, oh my God, can you believe this? They're going to legalize pedophilia. Like, you know, to get a desired reaction from us, to put us in that panic state, to maybe drive us in that direction of, you know, if we push them far enough, they might just jump off the cliff or start a civil war, or, you know, like, I don't know. Just a thought I had.
Somebody else talk. I talked enough.
I'm sorry, my mic was muted. I've been busy. Had to ban a troll, sorry. Unlike Duke, who likes to leave his trolls on his Facebook page and on his YouTube channel, I don't, and I will ban any troll that is out there tonight. And tonight I banned 2. So there you go.
Good job.
We don't do trolling. We don't need them. They're diversive. They want to undermine what we're doing, and good, then piss off. That simple. No problem. Don't want you around.
You got to expect them to show up, Doug.
I do, and that's why I keep my eye on the chat. And when I see them in there doing what they're doing is trolling, it's bye-bye. Enough is enough.
I like leaving them in. I like leaving them in there so that people can see them. They're like an example.
Yeah, but you're a bit crazy, Duke, and we all love you for it. And that's just you.
I'm just a cynical, sarcastic, miserable old bastard. I can't help it.
That's true. There you go.
So, guys, I live in Markham, and I really haven't seen that many Chinese people wearing the masks at all.
No, not really.
So,
not really.
And does anyone need toilet paper? It's coming. I got too much of it.
You're cutting it. Hey, wait a second, Ed. I got the toilet paper business already. I mentioned that earlier in the show.
That's odd.
You're cutting into my business here, buddy.
That's odd that you mentioned that, Ed, because when I worked for the winery, every Thursday I used to go out to Scarborough, and I'd come in the 401 and come in past Pacific Mall, and on it, I hate to say it, but you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting a Chinaman wearing a mask. And it didn't matter what time of year. And this was 2 years ago, I got fired from that company. I got doxxed out of that company. So we're talking like over 2 years ago. It was not unusual to see Asian people walking around Scarborough with medical masks on.
Yeah, you see the odd one here and there, but I really haven't seen that many. And in the summer, you'll see a lot of them. They got those colored or tinted glare shields.
Yeah.
See a lot more of those. But
the tourists here in Niagara Falls and Niagara-on-the-Lake, Asian tourists, for years they've been walking around Niagara-on-the-Lake and Niagara Falls with masks on. It's like, I don't know, if they're going to catch white man round eye cooties or something by breathing the same air as us. I don't know what it is.
Hey, okay, so most of the time you're seeing either Koreans or Japanese. And the reason for it is because I don't know if you've ever been to Tokyo or any Japanese city. Do you know that when you get on the subway there and get on the trains, they actually have professional pushers that they push you into the doors so that the doors can close on the train. The professional pushers. So you're always this close to the next person, right? This close, within inches of everybody. So they all wear masks over there. Why? Because have you ever smelled people who eat fish for a basic staple diet? You ever smell their breath? Holy doodles, is that nasty stuff. So yeah, it's masks. And it works, and it works well. I know.
Well, I think the reason a lot of Chinese people, if you just look at, just the pollution factor alone, right back to Wuhan, my God, I was reading that they had, when the coronavirus first hit, they were actually in the middle of protesting the sixth open air garbage incinerator. And they've got like 6 of these things within 20 miles of Wuhan. And one of them was like less than 800 meters away from residential homes. And so these people are being, toxinated, with 2,000 tons per, incinerator a day of garbage. Like these people, their cells were fried long before they turned on 5G or anything else. And it's kind of funny because my son, I had a bunch of people in Facebook that were saying that they actually believed that virus was here a lot sooner than now. Like we're talking back in January. And I can personally attest, my son, who is a university student, just came off the Christmas break. And so I think it was like January 3rd or 5th, he was due to go back. And he wasn't even there like one and a half days, and something hit this kid. And he's asthmatic, so he's always had troubles with breathing, but not to the point when he got sick that he ever had to take his inhaler. And whatever hit him this time hit him immediately in the throat. It was like he had laryngitis. He burned a fever, and for the next 2 weeks, if he hadn't had a rescue inhaler with him, puffing on it every 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, I don't think he would have made it, to be honest. So I think the mask thing, coming from China is probably just because those people are just so sick of breathing in the pollution, to be honest.
They use these carbon filter masks, which take the particulates out of the air. Because you're right, they burn garbage. They have coal-fired plants for smelting steel. They have coal-fired plants for creating electricity. So there's a lot of carbon particles and a lot of particulates in the air that you can get lodged in your lungs, and over time you'll literally have all kinds of respiratory problems. So yes, they use these carbon filter masks. I've seen those a lot. But anyway, I don't know. I think we covered a lot tonight here. It's been a little crazy. We've had a look at Western Canada. We've had a look at Eastern Canada, a little bit here in Toronto. We looked at the what was going on in the markets, which is kind of crazy because, you know, it's the banksters that are doing this to us. Ed, you haven't said much tonight. Why don't you give us some of your wisdom?
Wisdom.
The bales and bales of toilet paper keep falling over, so I keep putting them back and trying
I
to
see that. You got
back
just,
to the ceiling. Like I got so much of it.
yeah, it's great.
Anyways, I'm
You're
gonna
the
put this
man.
question.
I love your background. That's
Yeah,
priceless.
Anyways, I wanted to put this question out to the panel. What would be happening if we had a real decent constitution here in Canada, a legal one, and a different form of government? And which way is the constitutions that are being written? What direction are they taking? All right, go.
I have a 3-word answer and then I'll shut up. Look at Iceland.
Okay. Well, at this time, Ed, you know, nobody is actually writing a constitution per se that would be put up for ratification for the people. What we are doing in both Edmonton, Alberta and Saskatchewan is they've created a working document on Google Docs that people can go in and practice writing clauses for a constitution. Other people can come in behind them and make the changes to those working documents. But these are really just teaching tools. When it comes to having a constitutional convention with the elected delegates to go down there, we're hoping that at that point there's enough people that have worked with the with the teaching tools that we've created or they've created online. They've gone to enough of the constitutional committee meetings. They understand what now is the architecture for a constitution, what the various types of jurisdictions of law there are that will be put into a constitution, and so forth. But at the end of the day, when it comes down, when the rubber hits the road, so to speak, it's really going to come down to the will of the people. It's going to be them, not us, that are going to be ratifying the Constitution. It's going to be them, not us, that are going to be writing this Constitution. We will be participants, indeed, but we are not dictators. It's not up to us to tell them what to do, other than this is how you will go about doing it, and teach them, give them the tools to create, and absolutely be a part of that creation with them. We'd be fools not to be.
Yeah, you know, some days that's the only thing that keeps me going is thinking about what life is, you know, would be like. You know, not to have government telling you what to do, not to be overtaxed, you know, not to see homeless people on the street, and you know, just to see the stress level of people come down a notch. I think, you know, that may be the one big step to pushing us back to, you know, being that get to know your neighbor kind of society. You know, I think a lot of times too, people are just too stressed to give a shit about anybody other than themselves, to be honest.
Well, and the other thing you might want to consider here is that, yes, I'm what they call an anarcho-capitalist. I believe, I don't believe in big government. I believe in small government personally. I'm not a libertarian. I'm actually an anarchist. When it comes down politically, I believe in rules, but not rulers. And so, but that's me. What happens if the population of Ontario is about 10 million people, and they have a very liberal bias? So they could create a constitution that says the government will tax you at 90%. The health care will be 100% paid for. Dental care, 100% paid for. All of these things will be taken care of, and you'll be nanny stated by the government. That can be a constitution. It could happen here in Ontario. If that comes, where you get every Ontarian gets $1,000 a month, free money from the government, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we could have a constitution that was written by Bernie Sanders up here. I don't know, right, what they're going to put in it and how they're going to ratify it. I don't think anybody does at this stage of the game. That's a guess, by the way. I honestly don't think that would happen. I think that the people are becoming wiser and wiser as this whole thing is collapsing in on them. And I think that they're going to wake up to their own independence. even the ones that today that look to the state to give them support, so to speak. I think that over time that those people will wake up to it and go, wait a minute, we can't rely on the government. We have to rely on ourselves first, and then look at institutions as maybe a backup plan, rather than look at the state today as a primary. And I hope that happens. I don't know. We'll see. What's your opinion on that, Duke? You're here in Ontario. You've been born and raised here.
My opinion on how a constitutional convention would work here in Ontario?
Well, what kind of constitution do you think Ontario would ratify?
There's so many things to calculate in. If we were to sit down and do it right today, I don't think there's enough people awake and aware here.
No, you're missing the point. Everybody's awake, everybody's aware. Now you're writing a constitution, you're having a convention. That could happen. Let's say it happened tomorrow. With the people that you know of today, suddenly everybody woke up and said, "Oh, we need to write a constitution." What kind of constitution would they write?
I think you would see something closer to a republic-style government here. It would have some socialist leaning as far as a social safety net of either welfare or something to help people out, but it would have to be a whole lot tighter than what we have in place now. The system that's in place forces abuse. Not only is it open for it, it forces it. When it requires families to separate because he's working a job that doesn't make enough money to support the family, so he has to move out so the family can collect welfare. That is counterproductive to helping people. I can see where the people I've talked to, when it comes to welfare, they firmly believe in giving a hand up, not a hand out. So yeah, I could see where there would be socialist leanings, like certain aspects, maybe certain points or clauses in the Constitution would reflect some of the socialist mentality. But I think overall, Ontario would probably move towards a smaller government and a lot more, I hate to use the word because it's been bastardized and the meaning of it has been warped and distorted, but old school libertarian, small government, leave us the hell alone. Keep in mind, there's still a lot of people here in Ontario who remember the save us from Davis, don't let him pave us years of Bill Davis, turning all of the province into one giant corporation. That's what created the city of Toronto that we see today. It's the child of Bill Davis. And he was a cosmopolitan is the way to be. Well, there's a real majority of people in Ontario who have, well, one response for cosmopolitan. That's their response.
Okay. So let's ask Barry the same question, because he's up in British Columbia. He's up in a beautiful, beautiful community up in, you're just outside of Terrace, are you not, Barry?
Actually, just in city limits of Terrace. But
Okay.
I'm kind of, where I live, I'm right on the borderline of city and bush.
Yeah. So you're up in God's country, as they say in British Columbia, because
Yeah,
I'm from British Columbia.
3 minutes away from one of the best salmon fishing rivers in the world. I can walk to it in 3 minutes. Have my rod in the water in 3 minutes. Can't beat it.
So what kind of constitution would British Columbia have if they wrote one tomorrow?
That's kind of a question I'm going to pass on, okay? Because I study a lot of things and look at a lot of things, but that's kind of something that really isn't my field of.
A little out of your backyard.
Yeah, I kind of like. I follow what you guys are doing, honestly, and I've listened to a lot of what's being said. But there's other things right now that, like, we're all kind of focusing on certain things, and I find myself focusing on other issues right now, even
That's
though this
okay.
is a big issue. But it's something I'm going to pass on that question. Okay.
Well, thank you for your honesty.
Am I allowed to do that?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for your honesty. I like your upfrontedness. Catherine, do you want to take the ball and do that, or would Brenda prefer to kind of put her 2 cents worth in as to what kind of constitution, if it was written tomorrow in Saskatchewan, what kind of constitution do you think Saskatchewan would have? Go ahead, Catherine.
Oh,
You want to take it?
well,
Brenda, want to take it?
Let Brenda go.
a lot of people are awake, and they prefer to have less regulations. But then you've got the other side, the city dwellers that want more regulations. And so there's a good cross. And even within our document that I'm asking people to give counter opinions on, leave all the remarks there, but if you disagree with something, put it in the document. I'm not seeing a lot of disagreement, but I am seeing a lot of questions, and that's good. I'm seeing a lot of links to articles, and that's good because we're using it to educate. We're using it as a dialogue, and we're not using it to, per se, make this constitution. What we're using it for is to bring about a conversation so that people understand why we need clauses, why do we want to bring in the Glass-Steagall clause in the monetary policy. Why would we want that? Why do we want to limit government? Why do we want to limit corporations? And how can we go about doing that? What can we do so that equalization amongst a small corporation and a large corporation? You see the corporations eating up small guys all the time. Canadian farmers or Saskatchewan farmers are getting used to it, and they're saying, well, we have to get bigger in order to compete. Well, I think if we were to put Saskatchewan back into the small farm family categories, I think we would prosper much better. But that's my opinion. Maybe somebody else has a different opinion, and I'm open to hearing it. I'm open to hearing everything. Let's get it on the table. Let's get it discussed. What's going to work? And that's how I'm approaching it. Do I have any preconception of what's going to happen? Not a sniff. I'm sorry. I just don't. It's like mind reading. I can't do it. Anyway,
Well,
I have to say good night. And, oh, there it is. That's the alarm.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Love you guys all. And we are gonna make this happen. We just have to keep talking about it. Keep the conversation going, and keep your chin up. We'll make it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brenda, for coming up.
Okay. Good night.
Catherine, do you want to take the helm here and answer the question?
Well, that's a tough one.
Wasn't meant
Being
to be
born
easy.
and raised in, Edmonton, with a brief hiatus to Saskatoon for 12 years, Albertans are, they are a very unique, hardy, bold, take no shit type of people. And, they know their place. They know they're proud, very proud. They realize, and I agree that, they took great pride in knowing that, we were holding the entire country together with the wealth of this province. And, I think, I'm not sure, but I'm feeling, as far as the Constitution is concerned, I'm thinking a lot of people from Alberta, because of what the government has done, has really divided our feelings on the East. And I'm not too sure that, you know, once a Constitution is done here, that Albertans would want to really federate, you know, because there's been a lot of damage done. There has. Whether it's perceived or made up is irrelevant. But as far as the Constitution, you know, I think right now Albertans just really want to be left alone. They don't want to be bothered, you know, by anybody else. They don't want anybody else coming in here and messing around with their resources and what they can and cannot do. I think really they just really want to be left alone to resolve their own issues and self-govern themselves, you know, because they know that they can. They know that they have the resources to do so. And I really do feel that people here feel like they're being held back. I mean, not just pipelines, but, you know, agriculture in general. And, you know, that's just the mentality of the people who live here. And I think, you know, the oil industry had an awful lot to do with that. But, you know, as far as what other people are you know, feeling, I can't really say. You know, there's not a lot of open dialogue going on, other than just, you know, the separatist rhetoric that I just see floating everywhere. It's crazy. You know, people really do need to realize there is a much better way for everyone involved, you know, but it's weird. It's like they don't want to listen. They got to do things the hard way. It's bizarre.
I'll take a line from what John did on a Zoom call a few months ago, or a month or so ago. He said to the 16 people that were talking about separation and referendums and all this stuff, he said, guys, go ahead and do that. Go ahead. I'm not going anywhere. You're going to go ahead and do all of that. I'll still be here. When you're done, you'll be back and we'll work on the Myth is Canada. It's that simple. But you go ahead, waste your time. You'll be back and I'll still be here. And I thought, we can't convert everybody all at once. People take time to learn. And Patty, did you want to say something into this as to what kind of constitution you think would be for the people in Alberta and Saskatchewan? What if it was to happen tomorrow, what kind of constitution do you think would be created? I noticed that you've joined us again.
I did. I had to go eat supper. Late supper.
That's fine.
I'm seeing a lot of people talking republic, so, and they're still wanting, like, laws. They still want rules, not just a free-for-all and everything else. So,
you mean
that's what I'm getting at.
Laws that apply to absolutely everybody, including the politicians, the banksters, and the attorneys that seem to be able to walk away scot-free every time they decide to break those laws.
Yeah, they do want harsher rules for the government because they're supposed to be working for us, right? So, but I mean, there's still a lot of them are just
harsher rules, Patty, or harsher punishments.
I'll go punishments because my thing.
There's the key, my dear.
I know I like you.
I'm speaking for them. I'm not speaking for me because my views are totally different than a lot of people's. But yes, want definitely harsher rules.
Yeah, harsher punishment, not rules.
Sorry,
punishment. We have rules. We have rules right now that make it illegal to drive drunk. Make the punishment capital punishment. Yes, and you'll cut drunk driving to 0, and every taxi company will love you. Go ahead, blow over on the breathalyzer. You're going to the gallows.
How about when the Prime Minister decides to take $160 million into his bank account from a foreign company?
How about
what should happen? What should happen to him?
Nothing.
Death.
Nothing. Well, who runs the RCMP in Canada? What's her name? Brenda Leckie? Look into her, man.
Yeah.
What a joke.
But I mean, we're looking into politicians today, but what I'm saying is that once you have a constitution and you set law of the land into position in your various provinces, now if you have a politician that decides that he's going to or she's going to steal, because that's all it is, it's pure theft, then that's an infringement upon the unalienable rights of we the people, and that should be a hanging offense, because you're only going to hang one. That's it, just one, and for 1,000 years, it'll be beautiful business.
Yeah.
You only
But you
have to
gotta have
hang one drunk driver. That's it. Just one.
That's it, just one.
Just one.
I'm
It'll never happen again.
I'm getting a lot of as well, just get it done. They're like tired of hearing me and tired of listening. Just do it and more action. And I'm like, well, you kind of need to be involved in this.
Well, I'm sure glad I quit drinking before you guys started making the laws now.
Yeah, I think it's bizarre because I think a lot of people
I'll
just
tell
don't
you.
understand what is involved in writing a constitution. Like, you got to get over the do we even have one issue into, well, that's great. Yeah, good luck with that, Catherine. I'll talk to you next week. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is about all of us. We all need to be involved. And, I sometimes think that it's their lack of knowledge that, frightens them. It's fear.
Well, it is.
I don't know what to do. Oh, don't ask me for my opinion, because, I don't want to be responsible for any shit when it goes south.
Well, but you're absolutely correct, because the fear factor comes from the lack of knowledge. And, I talk about the Mythos Canada and what I had to do in order to locate all of the information and then bring it into a singular location so that people could have access to it. I mean, it was very well hidden. It took me 12 years to pull it all together and figure it all out, put it on a timeline, and then expose what had been done. So, yeah, I get people being scared. Yeah, I get them not wanting to step into the spotlight because of the fear factor of not knowing. But once they know, there's no excuse, none whatsoever. The only excuse is that you're too lazy to get off your fat ass and go do something about it. Sorry, bud. I'm sorry, Duke, I took your line.
Well, I just want to point out, and this is something that maybe you two ladies can use when you're talking to people who say, well, we need to get everyone involved. And Doug will probably step up and correct me on the numbers, but in 1776, only 3% of the U.S. population initiated the war that defeated the largest military force in the world. At the end of that war, only 17% of the population were involved in the independence movement. And you can rest assured that Ebenezer and Jethro, way out in the boonies of Pennsylvania, didn't come in out of their field and go into town that they haven't seen in 2 years because they're busy trying to make sure they got food on the table for the winter. They don't go into town. Do you really think Jethro and his brothers went into town and voted on the Constitution? No. A very small portion, just like we see in our federal elections here in Canada now, only a small portion of the population gets involved in our elections. Only a small portion of our population is actually going to get involved in constitutional conventions and even in ratifying and voting on them when that time comes. Realistically, if we see a 50% voter turnout in each of the countries to vote on ratifying a constitution, that would be a phenomenal breakthrough. When you think about the fact that only 3 out of 10 people in 37 million of us decide our government now. Less than 30% of the people vote now. So really, you're defeating yourself if you set a goal of we need everyone. you're defeating yourself. You're going to create a sense of failure within yourself. We don't need everyone. We just need the people who want to be involved. That's it.
That's called critical mass, Duke. And you're right. That's all we need. We need to hit critical mass. And that will give us the necessary movement within to create these constitutional conventions in the various provinces. But at that point, the rest of the people within those provinces will then have the opportunity, like you say, to vote or not vote, to participate or not participate, because you can't force anybody to participate. So if they don't want to participate, then if only 50% of the people voted, and of those 50% of those people, let's say you needed to have 65% ratify, 65% of the 50% ratified the Constitution, the 50% that didn't vote are still under the law.
Yep,
Just
they get it.
Silence is acquiescence.
Silence is consent.
Correct. And so that's all well and good. They had their opportunity. They could have become involved, and they chose to not. And that's good. That's fine. You can't force people to do it. But at the end of the day, once it's ratified, you're kind of stuck. And now you can't be. I love people who say, well, I didn't vote, but I hate that politician. I said, or I voted, I didn't vote, but I hate that. I said, quit your complaining. Next time, participate. You're not going to participate, then stop complaining.
I'm
I
just
think a
getting
lot of
off
people don't
that.
like participating because the end result never changes, which, I explain why that happens, I mean, when you realize it's not, Mr. Wonderful Socks or whatever you want to call them. I mean, people are still stuck on it. Oh, it's the liberals and it's the left, or it's the conservatives and it's the right. And I'm like, guys, you're both ugly. Okay? Like, it's the same team. You got to understand, government isn't just this little narrow box they show you on TV. You've got that whole bureaucracy in behind it, and they're linked to the globalist bankers. I mean, there are people way smarter than Sock Boy running this show, right? Honestly, do you honestly think he's that smart? He could have pulled this off? Really? Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
Trudeau's got an IQ of about 36, but the girls like him because he has a nice butt. Got him elected. Pretty sad.
Well, that's more information than I needed to know. Thank you so much, Barry.
Got elected, buddy. You just have to pull around Canada,
Anyways,
That's anyways.
I'm looking at our time here in Ontario. We're now just a little bit after 10 o'clock. So what I figure we're going to do, we got about another 15 minutes. We'll let everybody have their few minutes of fame. I'll shut up and let's open the floor to anybody who wants to say anything. And then we'll say goodnight after about 15 minutes. How's that?
Duke, you go first.
Or we'll just say goodnight now if nobody wants to talk. Dookie, I thought you had something to say, brother.
I was waiting for Duke. And then
I'll tell you what. I'll go first and get out of here, and I'll go back over and talk to my audience in my own show, because I've been ignoring them in my own show all night. When I came on here tonight, I wanted real bad to just sit quietly all night, but you guys kept saying things that pushed my buttons, and I couldn't just sit here. I am going to close out the night the same way I had planned on. With regards to this scam that is coronavirus, it's nothing more than the magician getting you to watch him crumple up the tissue in this hand while he slips a dove out of his pocket with this hand, okay? That's all it is. And if you stop worrying about toilet paper long enough to open up a New York Stock Exchange website and start digging into what's going on in the financial market, you'll realize that coronavirus is the least of your worries. Way back in October, Doug Force and I did a show that I titled They're Talking Money. And way back in October, Doug told you what was coming. I told you what was coming. Doug told you, get your money and go buy gold and silver. Here's the website to go to. You buy it in a little book. They come in little square cubes of gold and silver. It looks neat. You can put it on your bookshelf. Nobody will even know what it is. Did any of you do that? I doubt it. Doug and I did that show. I did a show and told you, guess what? You're like me. You don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to worry about losing and putting into gold. You're lucky if you've got a paycheck and a half worth of money in the bank. Get your money the hell out of the bank. Put it in a tin can in your garden. Well, guess what, folks? The way things are going with the stock market, twice in the last 10 days, it has dropped in one day of trading more than it dropped in October of 1929 and brought on the stock market crash that created the Depression. Only computer algorithms and the feds stepping in to stop the trading saved us from taking wheelbarrows full of money to go buy a loaf of bread, if there's even a loaf of bread on the shelf. That's how close we are to living in 1929 all over again. But keep buying your toilet paper. Why? Because 5 months ago, the man on the other side of this screen from me, the two of us told you what was coming. So my final words, I told you so. See ya, folks.
Good night, Duke. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your time, as I know all of us do. And here we are.
Well, all I can say is, it's, we're not all hope is lost. Yeah, we're gonna be hurting. Even if we had enough people that were ready and willing to spend this time under self-isolation and self-quarantine to get to really put together and hammer together a constitutional document. It's not the train has left the station. This market is going to crash. And we are going, there's no stopping this. It's only a matter of time before they're not in control now. And it's going to get ugly. And, I think, unfortunately, as a Canadian, we've never lived in such a time where we've had to see these types of hardships. We have no real idea of what to expect. We can only surmise, people can talk, oh, it'll be a civil war. And, other people will be saying, now you're going to be shooting your neighbor over a loaf of bread. And, either way, it's going to be hardship. People are going to be thrust into the streets. Families are going to be broken up, separated. It is not going to be a very pretty picture, especially if, the military gets involved. So what I say to everybody is, if you really want things to change, you have to put in that effort. If it means anything to you, you'll do it. I mean, it's inspiration or desperation that usually motivates a person to make changes. And things are going to get pretty desperate really quickly. So, if you want to do your part to, make that as less pain and suffering, not only for yourselves, but for your, fellow humanity, you got to put the time in. And if not, then, you really do need to prepare yourselves accordingly, because we can't stop this train. It's gonna go through the station at 120 miles an hour, and people are gonna get run over, and there's gonna be death and destruction. And I'm not looking forward to it. I'm prepared, thanks to, Doug and Duke and Brenda, and, I've got myself in a position where I think I'm going to be okay, but, I still don't even know what's coming, so, be prepared, get yourself prepared, people, because, it doesn't matter what we do from this day forward, in the immediate collapse, it's still coming.
Well, Now, let me read a couple of quick quotes here, and I'll give the floor over to Barry and Patty. But the first quote is, "You never find the solution if you don't see the problem." And that's by Gilbert Chesterton. The second quote is, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And that's so very true with what we're doing with the Mythos Canada. By the way, that was Buckmeister Fuller. And with that, I will now mute my microphone and let Barry and Patty have the floor, or Barry or Patty have the floor.
Well, I've sat back and watched what's going on here in the last couple of weeks, folks, with this coronavirus and how fast it came to society. What exactly is going on in our society right now? There's a lot of underlying things going on that most people aren't aware of. And unless you've gone down the rabbit holes and understand what the powers that be are really trying to do with this virus, whether it's going to be a trigger point, this is a question I've asked myself a lot in the last couple of days. This is going to be the trigger point where they really do bring down catastrophic changes in society in a very, very short period of time. We've said many times on our shows that, these people that run our world, they control the money. And you control the money, you pretty well control the population. And really, for them to put society into a state of chaos, we see what's going on in the markets right now. Well, a total economic collapse worldwide will put society into a complete state of chaos and make them basically susceptible to anything the government came up with for a solution. And I really am fearful of us going in that direction. I see all kinds of things right now that are pushing us in that direction. Think to change, or this could be just another test for the human race. I don't have that answer, but if this is the tipping point where they're going to unleash chaos in society, I would agree with what Colleen said, that we're going to see some crazy, crazy times. I kind of sat back with people 4 or 5 years ago and said that these times were coming, and the most important thing to do is try and prepare for them. Well, I did put away some food, and I put away some firearms, and I've got them hidden, because I honestly believe that if society goes tyrannical and people can't get their hands on food, your food, they will kill you for, because their children are starving. Society, these people play off fear, and they play off chaos, and that's what we see coming right now in society. No matter where you look, we seem to see chaos rising. So I just say, hey, you really got to keep your feet on the ground. Make sure you're spiritually connected, and make sure you're mentally prepared for possible real hell in our society. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could, and we have to prepare ourselves, because when it does happen, like I said, chaos will prevail, and out of chaos always comes control. Thanks, guys. My thoughts.
And as Rahm Emanuel once said under the Obama administration, never let a good crisis go to waste. Patty, how about you?
I don't really have a lot to say. I just know I'm going to continue to push the Constitution and get it written and get people involved and here in Alberta. And I just think we can make Alberta great again.
Okay, well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming on and participating. Catherine, Patty, Barry. Well, good night, Barry. Ed, thank you very much for once again being a moderator for us. Really appreciate the audience tonight. Was great. Love a lot of the comments that were coming in. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, on YouTube for showing up and being a part of our roundtable event tonight. I really appreciate that, and look forward to the next one. I've been under the weather a bit. I've had this nasty throat cold for about 2 weeks. I'm hoping it will be gone after this weekend, and possibly we can schedule another roundtable for within the next 10 days or so. I'd like to bring JP Rahum into a roundtable and let him tell his story about how he found Russell Roger Smith's book in a library in Montreal in 1974. So look forward to that roundtable coming very soon. Once I get my voice back to being a little better, and my head to be less foggy, we'll get that one up and running. Okay. Once again, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate this, and everybody have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks for having
You
us.
too.
Good night, Ed, Patty.
Thanks, Ed. Bye, Catherine.
Good night, all. I'm going to leave you guys with one quote I heard from an old, from the son of a European blacksmith. Says, you can lead a horse to water, but eventually they all get thirsty. So keep talking to your friends, keep talking to people you meet, and just be casual about it. Be brutally honest with everyone you know and whoever you're going to talk to, and don't preach. Just tell them the way it is.
We teach, we don't preach.
Please.
Get
Have a good night.
educated to get liberated, everybody. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Night.
Night.
Good night. We're offline?
Nope. Good night.